Awesome. Welcome, Music&Mezcal. I'm sitting with Ben Worcester. Good to see you.
Dude, you said my last name right. Did you ask Adam about that?
No, my girlfriend's English.
Okay, that's the other reason. Either from Massachusetts or England. So
yeah, I bet you get a lot of Worcester. And
I get it all.
Yeah. What's the weirdest that you've gotten?
There was a particular young woman in high school who called me, who said my last name was Racehorse.
Racehorse.
But, Worcestershire a lot of the time.
Worcestershire, yeah.
Winchester.
Yeah, you're like there's no shire in my name.
No,
though.
but most of the letters are silent, and it's the Worcestershire sauce that people are unshire about, and they automatically go for the Worcestershire connection.
I have to admit that the only reason I know is because my girlfriend's from Yorkshire.
I mean, that counts. In high school, one substitute teacher got it right once, and she had lived in Worcester, Massachusetts.
I didn't even know there was a Worcester, Massachusetts.
There is.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here on the
Brandon,
subject of saying your name correctly.
Great to be here.
Cheers.
Let's do this. This is a sip, right?
This is
I'm
a
not
sip.
going to shoot this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So, I think I mentioned it. We were kind of spitballing back and forth when we were emailing, trying to make this work. I'm pretty sure the last time I saw you was like 15 years ago.
Feels like the right number.
Right after your set at Sasquatch.
Oh, yeah.
Which would have been, I think you've done that festival a couple times, right?
That's right. Yeah.
I think it was your first year.
First one on the little stage.
On the littler
stage.
Yeah.
Well, that was a time. That feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny too, because I had never, the time before that I saw you was before kind of everything took off for you guys.
Right. Before we got huge.
Before you were like, multi-platinum.
Super famous.
What's the really famous Wimbledon before you played Wimbledon?
Before Wimbledon, yeah. That was a good show.
Yeah, when Freddie Mercury opened up for you, right? Yeah,
totally.
that one.
My elbow hurt after.
But so there's like that. Don't so much has happened for you between both of those periods of time.
Yeah, like everything. Everything's happened.
You're a father now?
I am a father.
Yeah. How many kids do you have?
Well, I have a dog and a kid. So
and a kid.
Like two, but really just one.
Yeah, you have the responsibility of two, but
My first son, Trout, the dog, who's 11 years old, he is not quite sure what happened 4 years ago when we had a human baby.
Right.
And he became, second fiddle at Wimbledon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. What kind of dog is it?
He's a Springer Spaniel.
Is that like a...
Oh, he's like a mid-size. Like one of those classic English bird-chasing dogs.
How's the kid with the dog?
Completely oblivious to his existence right up until about a couple weeks ago when he started like playing with him, playing tug of war and getting a reaction. It's kind of like they both ignored each other for the last 4 years, and now they're starting to be friends. And I keep telling Trout, the dog, my son is called Theo and Trout is the dog. And I
will mix those up.
Yeah, I mean, I mix them up all the time. Today, several times. I said, someday this kid's going to be dropping stuff on the floor for you, and you're going to love it. But now Trout just gets in trouble when he eats the stuff off the floor.
Right.
So I say, someday this kid's going to take you for walks, and you're going to love it. And we're like getting there.
I had my brother's got two sons, and when the younger one was born, they had I don't know what their dog is. It's kind of it's got like a bunch of like. I think Mastiff is one of them.
Gotcha.
It's like a bunch of. It's one of those mutts.
Got
all the big dog names mixed into it. Big lovable idiot. And I when my nephew was first 4 or 5 years of his life. He's only like I think he's 6 now. Would just pull on his ears, like rip his eyeballs open, like, and he would just sit there and take it
like a stuffed animal.
Yeah.
I know other kids who are obsessed with their pets and their dogs, but. It's kind of a mutual thing. They just kept away from each other, and now they're coming closer.
Yeah.
They'll get there eventually. So it must be nice being an uncle.
Yeah.
You get to play with those kids and then also sleep well.
Yeah. You have siblings as well, don't you?
I do, and I am an uncle. But my niece and nephew, they live on the East Coast. They're in Halifax. But Theo, my son, he has a cousin, my partner's niece. Well, so my niece also, and we're actually living in the same house as them right now. So...
lots going on.
Yeah.
Are you from the West Coast or East Coast?
I'm from right here.
Right here.
I grew up in False Creek. And
Cool.
Yeah. And I still often, hang out at my parents' house. And so I still feel like I'm there a lot of the time.
Yeah. How has being, you said your son's 5?
He's 4.
4.
Yeah.
Has that, how has that affected your writing? Has it been a conscious change or as a songwriter?
No, it's not a conscious change. It is, I don't have time to myself, so to speak, between all the things in the day and then also just kind of like being a present dad. I have a problem. I'm one of those dads who just likes to be there all the time, maybe a little too much, like one of those helicopter dads.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of fun. And I've always had kind of a hard time figuring out how I write or how to write songs. And I've never had a method that works. And I've actually, throughout my life, I've just kind of carried ideas with me until eventually we record them and then they become real songs. And then that's it and it's done. But until we record it as a band, it just exists in me. And so it's not so different. I still carry around a lot of song ideas and baggage and words that I kind of rifle through in my mind all the time, constantly. If I'm looking off into spaces, I'm usually just thinking about words and how to rearrange them or what they mean. And then someday I put a period at the end. Oh, there's a song. But I still can't figure out how to do it.
Yeah,
which
totally.
is why if someone asked me to write a song for them, I just couldn't do that. And I've tried, but
I watched this interview you did at your cabin.
yeah.
It's like 5 years old, I think, or was posted on YouTube.
That's
like
for the
5 years
Cascadia album.
old. Cascadia, yeah. And you were talking about how you don't like to be heard during the creation process.
That hasn't changed.
Which is something that I was watching it. I found super interesting because going back to knowing you when we knew each other when we were like, I don't know, we were like 20, I think.
Yep, that's right.
I had no idea you were a musician.
Oh, I was barely a musician.
And then
barely one then.
And then it was like I remember Adam being like, "Hey, remember Ben?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "He's in that band." I'm like, "What?"
That's awesome.
And it was kind of a neat thing to find out.
I definitely remember sitting around, playing the guitar. But
we smoked a lot of
we
weed.
did. Yeah, none of that was usable lyrics either. But, yeah, I mean that was the early days. That was kind of before the band did things, and So
Is that about when you started playing? When you were early 20s?
I've been playing a long time, and before I played an instrument, I wrote little poems in my notebook, and words was kind of my thing. And then I learned how to play the guitar just so I could sing, Ben Harper and Sublime songs.
Yeah.
And so when I met Adam,
back when you could still, get laid at a campfire with a guitar,
that was actually the reason. It didn't work.
It didn't work.
But
we all tried.
I should have learned Jack Johnson's songs, not Ben Harper songs.
Yeah.
But everyone respected me more. But anyways, we keep talking about this guy Adam. Adam's our mutual friend.
Yeah.
I worked with Adam at the Fifth Avenue Theater right out of high school, and we became good pals. And I met lots of cool people through him. But yeah, so we'd hang out, and I remember there was a few other friends in that house, in that group, who would play music, and we'd just kind of sit around and exchange songs. But it wasn't really a thing for me then.
Is that how did you get linked up with Tyler?
Tyler and I went to high school together.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and actually Tyler and 3 of my best friends in high school all had a band. They had like a garage punk band that was awesome, and I admired them greatly because they were doing something so cool that I didn't think was a thing. And I occasionally would, at their shows, I would get on stage with a costume, a particular costume, a reoccurring character, and do usually a Beastie Boys song with them or something. The character was Naked Kosher Boy. That was my title, and I wore a Sinai Kosher Hot Dogs apron, and that was it, with a mask and a hat. And it was very cool. It made me very popular with everybody.
Yeah.
And then after high school, he wasn't in the band. They weren't doing the band thing, and I was just kind of writing songs on my own. And at this point, I had started making music on my computer using, a free download of the earliest Pro Tools or something. And I was using my computer microphone and just kind of inventing sounds because the world of independent rock music and stuff wasn't really a thing or on my radar. The Bare Naked Ladies, and that was about it. And then like Broken Social Scene came out and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I wasn't into it and I didn't know. So I really just started by inventing everything I did for myself, including the recording and the editing, and I would chop up things and, put them together weird because that's what I was doing at the time.
Yeah.
And then Tyler graduated and he said, I'm going to go somewhere. I'm going to go to Australia or do something unless you want to try making music, as a thing.
Yeah.
He said, let's try it. So we compiled the songs that we had been working on. We would get together in his basement and work on some things together in that same way. Instead of a drum kit, we had like a djembe on the floor with a kick pedal. And Tyler had a Marshall Stack amp and his dad's Ovation acoustic guitar. None of the stuff that we have now, but at that time was integral to our, our
the Ovation acoustic guitar.
Yeah, totally. Can't catch a sound like that anywhere else. So we started trying to do this, and luckily, I always sing Tyler's praises when it comes down to how we went through starting the band, because he had already started a band at an early age and done their business side, and like they won a recording deal and a manager, and they did their whole little thing that I kind of watched them go through. And so afterwards, Tyler was the business mind behind it, and he would say, well, we're going to book these shows, we're going to go start playing coffee shops. And I just kind of went, okie doke. I never thought that being a musician was something that you just buckle down and go do. I thought you had to be chosen by the gods to now you are famous, now you are a musician. Because I never ever thought it was possible.
It's like I remember because right before we started, we were talking about Dan Mangan, who I've heard him talk about how like gatekeepers in the business, and how when he kind of started out, there were more. It was more. The industry had more gatekeepers to like the venues and to the record companies and to various different things like that. And now it's much more, a lot of nose to the grindstone.
Yeah,
type.
Do it yourself for anyone to want to help you.
Yeah.
Kind of
Do you, when you guys, when like as sort of a writing duo, is it something that do you guys sit down, and what's that process like? Do you come in with like half the puzzle and just kind of throw shit at the wall until it comes together? Or
again, it's different every time.
Yeah.
There is no standard way we do it, and there's no formula that we do. Tyler and I both really like just demoing the creative part where you sit by yourself and no one's time is being wasted, and you're not spending money in a space. You're just putting all your ideas, the good ones and the bad ones and the craziest ones, in this case, into a computer, because that's the fun part. You can do anything. You can layer stuff. You can add instrumentation, and before everything progressed technologically, and before plugins and everybody can just make everything sound perfect in the computer world, you don't even have to have instruments anymore if you don't want. You can make everything with MIDI and whatever. But, we're just making sounds into the microphone and doing stuff with that. And we would layer lots of vocals, and that was kind of our thing. We'd use our voices as instruments, because neither one of us was what we considered to be like a good musician. We never tried to be musicians. We just liked writing songs. So our first project was actually called Words Over Music, and we would prize our words over the music part. Even though the music ended up pretty cool too. But so now it's kind of the same. We sometimes bring ideas to each other that are fleshed out and sound like a song, and then we go and we try to copy that in a better way. Yeah. And sometimes, most often, I'll bring ideas that are not an entire song. There's just an idea that I really want to flesh out, and then Tyler's great at seeing a big picture, and that kind of thing, where I focus in on little things, and I rarely progress the full way to the end of a song, because I don't like repeating myself alone. When you're on stage and you're singing and everyone's singing along, you can sing choruses till the cows come home. Yeah. But when you're by yourself in your bedroom repeating the same words over and over again seems crazy.
So like creation in a vacuum too, right? Yeah.
So I'd make a 1 minute song and be like, done. That interests me.
Next song.
I want to listen to that again and again and again, because there's that one weird moment or the thing that was so cool about it that I can't recreate. And that's a huge problem, because I have a whole lot of cool ideas that are unfinished songs that no one will ever hear. Whereas Tyler often will bring a song to the table with all its parts, because he imagines the drums and the bass, and he'll like play them all and do the thing. Then we bring it to the studio and everyone plays their parts or adds something. You know, there is some creative license there, but sometimes the song's already a song and we just make it sound better. And we both, you know, I don't want to use a yin and yang thing. That seems a little overdone, but like, we don't think the same and we don't work the same, which is part of the reason maybe that we've been able to keep doing this for so long, and what keeps us interested. Yeah. Because I'm not writing his songs and he's not writing my songs, and I never get tired of his songs. I'm his biggest fan because I love the songs and I get to be a part of them. Right. To a point where I actually miss songs sometimes, because we make a new album and then some of those songs that we were playing before, we don't play on the set anymore. And then as you make more albums and years pass, we have 7 albums now, and it's, you know, there's songs that we'll never play again unless it's the anniversary of that album and we play that show kind of thing. Yeah. So speaking of the anniversary of that album, you have the anniversary of Hawaii coming up, right? Yeah, that's on that's the 5th Hollywood Theater. Is that a sold out show? I believe it's sold out already. Yeah. What's how? I don't know if I've ever been in that room. What's that room like? It's awesome. It's great. I've actually been there 3 times in the last few months, and it seems to be kind of the most popular venue, especially for local bands that aren't playing their big hometown, you know, Vogue Commodore show. You know, it's a nice place to have a show with a great space and, you know, capacity, and it sounds pretty good, unlike some other local venues that feel like they aren't really made for music. Right. Yeah, it's fun to be at if you're one of the first 10 people in the front, and then other than that, you don't actually have sight lines or anything. So we haven't played there yet, but I used to go see movies there, you know, when it was a theater, and then it was closed for so long. Yeah. And I thought they should open a cannabis-friendly movie theater. You know, like they have bars at theaters now. They should have one where you can partake before, or like, you know, in a designated I think the biggest bar for that is the fact that it falls under the same jurisdiction as burning tobacco. Smoking. I know, and I get it. I get why anybody who doesn't partake wouldn't want to be there. But there's a difference in my mind between, you know, hot boxing with cigarettes. Oh, 100%. I smoked for 20 years, and there's a difference. Yeah. Plus, you know, get the sprinklers going, you get a nice Hawaiian effect in there. And it's, anyways, that was always a little joke I had in my head that thought maybe it would happen someday. But I mean, I think it should. I don't like. I'm old fashioned in my beliefs that you should be able to have a venue and make those choices based on your clietele. Yeah. I'm old-fashioned, like I still smoke outside and then go in and enjoy a movie. But, you know, halfway through, what are you going to do? You're going to re-up. How are you with edibles? I'm great with them. Yeah, I love them. They're awesome. I mean, what a wonderful world where everything is now, you know, legal, and we can have them without having to worry. Yeah. And there's this gray market in the middle somewhere, not quite legal, but like cheaper than it's ever been in history kind of thing, which is pretty special also. And, you know, my problem is I enjoy it a lot, and it's like the medicine for all of the things that ail me. But if you use your medicine too often, then it stops having that magic. It stops being medicine. And so I need to like reduce for the purpose of just using it, you know, enjoying it. And I love it. I think it's a special thing. I could talk about it ad nauseum, but you know, it's still weird to me that like that kids these days don't have the experience. Like there's so many people that are, you know, this generation and the one right before it, who will never have the experience of buying weed out of the back of a sketchy dude's van. Yeah, or right over there, the Can't Be Hostel. The Can't Be Hostel, yeah. You wait by the jukebox. That's how you know it wasn't a joke.
And they would come up to you. They would go, "Are you shopping?"
Yeah, and the dude with the fanny pack.
The fanny pack.
Just like shuffle up to you.
It's like, am I buying weed from the HA inside the camping?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you just walk down Granville Street and someone's going, buds.
Yeah. Now they're saying crack, rock.
No, thank you.
I'm sure they were doing that then too, but
yeah.
So I would ask you about swinging back around to the anniversary show Hawaii. Yeah. When you're doing something like putting up, sort of curating your own music, because 17 years now you guys are going on since the formation.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's crazy.
And 7 studio albums, not counting you also just in 22 you released the B-sides and rarities as well, right?
Yeah, and like numerous EPs and
a bunch of stuff, and which is quite a body of work for 17 years.
Yeah, we tallied the songs one day. I'll tell that's another story. Anyways, yeah.
No, what's the tally?
Just like over 100, 120 plus songs. That was before our last album and all these things that we've never recorded. So like, it's just like a large repertoire of songs, again, that we'll probably never play or hear ourselves play again. Doesn't mean I don't love the songs. It just means that sometimes I go back and listen to the old albums. Like, oh yeah, there's that one. Yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry, but I interrupted your question.
Oh no. So when you're putting together a show like that, what? I'm trying to actually formulate the question. So is it like you're kind of trying to transport yourself to where you were? When did that album come out? 8 years ago? 10 years ago. 10 years ago.
2012.
20.
What are we? 2004.
Is it? Are you playing music that was released up to that point with maybe a couple like flowerings of newer stuff, or is it
yet to be told?
Is it you don't know?
Yeah, Tyler makes our set lists, and it's just kind of always been that way because he has a good idea of what flows into the next thing, and literally like how long the songs are, and I forget those fine details.
Right.
So just for our entire career, Tyler makes a set list, and sometimes we go, oh, I really don't want to play that one tonight. I feel, not super confident about it, or like, can we try playing this one? And he'll throw them in or rearrange stuff.
Does he ever throw stuff in that you haven't played in years?
Yeah, occasionally. But we like try and practice at least once before we play. So, but we expect to throw in some extra early years songs. I'm really excited for the show because some of the songs off of that album are my favorite to play.
Yeah. Was that the third or fourth?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely the third or fourth. It was the fourth. And I lose track also.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was an exciting time, actually. That's when we had the most support on rock radio.
Was that when around the time you were in the Peak Performance Project? You came in.
Yeah, it was around that time. But we had a song on the radio in the U.S. on rock radio.
Which track was that?
It was called "I Love You."
Oh yeah.
And it was one of our more popular songs, and it was used in a commercial, like a cell phone commercial in the States. And so it got some traction, and some people came to our shows when we traveled in the U.S. Instead of going to Europe and doing that thing, like a lot of bands either go to Europe to try touring after Canada, or they go to the States, and both are like a financial loss. But in Europe, they revere art and care about you, and in the U.S., it's like playing in Canada. Only there's just so many more people and things and everything, so you just are very little fish in
and so many
giant
more
Shark Tank.
More cities.
Yeah, so many more cities. And
we have like 5.
Yeah, but it was thrilling as a young person to go and do that and go and play the shows and feel like you're,
You played South by Southwest, didn't you?
We played South by, and we did.
And you did Sasquatch a few times.
Did Sasquatch, a couple times. Yeah. And anyways, that was an exciting time. And we even made a documentary with CBC called "Winning America."
Oh,
our
cool.
First trip to America kind of thing. And, added in some cool stuff, like we got our trailer broken into and some things stolen, and, the kind of things you add in for extra fun. Got a shitty tattoo of, would you call that a lemon or a bad clock? Or
it looks like a poker chip from here.
Yeah, it's essentially a poker chip. But that's a lemon tattoo, for the video. It was an exciting time.
So
Hawaii.
on the topic of tattoos, the video for your newest single,
Yep.
Never Grow Up.
Yeah.
There's someone giving themselves a tattoo in the beginning of the video.
That's
isn't
right.
there?
Yeah. Tyler's giving.
Is he giving himself a Volknut tattoo?
I think it was a shark.
A shark?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a random question. I was
What's
like,
Volknut? Anyway?
it's the Norse three intersecting triangles.
Gotcha. Definitely not that.
I only know because that's one of the only tattoos that I have.
That would have been super cool.
And I was like, is that?
Oh, I wish it was.
Yeah.
I wish it was that.
That's what it looked like. I watched the video without my glasses on, so it's my excuse. But on the topic of that song, awesome track.
Thanks, man.
And you know the lyrics of the title, "Never Grow Up." Is there? What's the question? Feeling like you're, you know, we're hitting the you know, you're about the same age as I am, I think, right? We're the same age.
104.
104. Yeah, I feel 104.
Yeah, I'm turning 40 this year.
Turning 40 this year. So am
Yeah.
I.
All
So am
right.
I. So like,
Nice. Happy
so
40 this year.
Happy 40 this
Thanks.
year.
Feel pretty
So
old.
that it changes a lot of it changes the way you look at the world. It changes how you feel. You wake up in the morning. You're like, why do I feel like shit? Oh, I'm turning 40 this year.
Turning 40. That's why I'm having one of these and not 40 of these. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But there's that the old adage: you're only as old as you feel, or you're only old as you let yourself be.
Yeah.
And having that, you talk about, you know, being an artist, having beginner's mind, and being joyful and childlike in your art. Is there some impetus of that in the creation of the song?
I mean, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, Brandon. Tyler wrote that song. So I can't speak on his behalf.
Yeah.
But when he brings the song to the band and we listen to it, I feel that. And I feel like it's, you know, a nice little anthem for those of us who are getting older, but still feel, you know, like we want to be cool. Still feel like we want to be cool. And I was going to say, you're only as old as you feel. I feel like I'm only as old as I act.
Yeah.
You know, I feel older than I act sometimes, but it's because I like playing. I like playing all sorts of things. And as far as the song goes, it kind of hit home with everyone in the band in a different way. And Tyler always writes his songs based on his own experience and based on his own things. And then we kind of take it for ourselves, kind of like anyone should with music, you know?
Mm-hmm.
The writer writes it for a reason, and then you impart meaning on it for yourself so that it keeps meaning something.
Yeah.
So when we sing it, I have that in mind, you know? Sometimes I feel like we grew up.
It's hard not to when,
It's
I don't
hard
have
not
kids, but I can imagine.
I think the world grew us up, you know? The world is a crazy place.
I feel a lot older. I feel more than 5 years older than I did when I was 20 in 2019.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
We went through the COVID time warp.
Yeah. Like I feel like that I feel about 10, 15 years older than I felt in 2019. 2019.
40 is the new 55.
40 is the new 55. It's funny too, because I remember I was very irresponsible for a very long time. And I used to joke, 30 is the new 20. I'm going to be a teenager for another 10 years. Yeah. And I did exactly that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, 30 is the new 20 if you're comfortable with 40 being the new 55.
Totally.
Because
and when you're 40, you're like, 30 was the new 20. Like, I get it.
So is this the beginning of a potential 8th album?
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. We're not striving to make an album this time.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to strive to record songs that we make, because making an album is its own kind of endeavor, which is amazing. And everyone should do it if you're making music, especially if you love albums and you want to make something that is succinct and fits together like pieces of a puzzle. And then you spend all that time and energy and money and all that like care and intense, just like this is it. This is what we're doing. And you make this thing, it's, you know, tied up with a bow. Here's a thing. And then you release it into the world. And it splashes right into the river with all the other things and goes down and just exists forever, which is cool. But it doesn't, I don't think, mean the same thing that it used to, at least in the world of how music is made these days.
Also how we consume it.
Yeah. Also, it's a lot of work to like take a chunk of time in your life and make an album. Whereas what we can do now is continually write songs, and when we have something, we can take it to the studio and record it and just keep making music rather than trying to make one thing. We're just going to make music as it comes. And then over time, we'll have these songs that we can either then pick and choose from to create an album, or will be an album.
But you can be releasing them as you go.
Yeah, rather than waiting for 2 years to finish this thing,
and
build up the hype and roll out the red carpet and pre-save and do all the things. And here's this is going to be the most important thing we ever do. And then it goes again. Wings, it takes wings and it flies off. And you're like, goodbye. And then what? The next thing. And, some people can make albums on their iPad at home and release them to the world and become super famous. But
it boggles my mind.
Other people still just like put a lot of resources and time into making a project and an album, and that can be exhaustive and actually like make it feel like maybe you can't do it anymore. So we're at the point, I think, where we want to be creative and make music, but some of the other stuff that goes around that feels restrictive to our lifestyles. Tyler has 2 kids. Jacelyn, our keyboardist, she just had a baby 6 months ago. So
it's the 3 of you that have been said the Whale the whole way through, right?
Yes. Well, right off the top, there was 4 of us in the band, and Spencer, our original drummer, and our good friend named Jeff, he played bass.
Yeah.
And then we got a keyboardist, and the keyboardist switched a few times. And then Jacelyn joined the band, and she's been in it, for most of our career. So she's been a steadfast part of it. And we used to split the band 5 ways, like just everything split 5 ways. And then when somebody decides to leave the band for their own purposes and literally owns 1/5 of your company that you put everything into, and they want 1/5 of what you have, which is next to nothing because you're between albums, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's tough. So we've kind of left it with the 3 of us. And right now we have just an insanely talented, awesome pal, Lincoln, playing bass. And he is just, as far as I'm concerned, a part of the band.
Yeah.
He just, kind of gets a paycheck when we don't, if he's lucky, And talking about money is tough when it comes to this stuff, because I'm not the business guy, the finance guy, and maybe it's uncool to just even talk about finances, but having awesome musicians in your band
have to eat, though.
Is great. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the cool thing is that Spencer is now playing with us again. And Spencer was our
drummer,
original
right?
drummer.
Yeah.
He's like a brother. He feels like family, and he was there for the beginning, and we also went to high school with him, and he's a big part of it. And I think a lot of people
you guys have known each other for 20 plus years.
Yeah, and a lot of people love the Said the Whale show because Spencer's an insane drummer. And he's like, Animal from the Muppets. He just plays all the drums as loud as he can, but with expertise, and it's so cool. And then for a while we had an amazing drummer, Brad Connors from Toronto, playing with us, and now he's playing with like 20 other bands. He's playing with some of the most popular country bands in the country and just doing awesome. And Spencer's playing with us, which is just amazing. It feels great. It feels like family came home, and it's kind of back to that vibe. But we don't want to keep anybody looped in, so we'll just leave it loose and see what happens.
Have you guys done any like you mentioned, Tyler has 2 kids, you have a son. Have you done any like long big tours since fatherhood?
Not since my son was born.
Yeah.
Tyler did a little extra time after his first son was born, and we were touring a bit more then. And it's a double-edged sword. He was, obviously you don't want to leave your partner at home with the baby, and that's not the best feeling. And there's no real way to like explain to somebody when you wake up in a hotel bed and you have to drive for 10 hours in the winter. It's just like you're still not suffering as much as anybody with a baby.
Yeah.
Who isn't sleeping in a hotel with another adult.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, when he told me, he's like, when your baby's born, you'll realize that touring just becomes easier because waking up at 6 a.m. to get in a van and drive is like just easier than waking up 5 times during the night and getting a bottle and doing the thing. And then so I haven't had to tour a lot since Theo was born. I toured for 2 weeks right after he was born. Actually, the only show that I've missed and the band played without me was because Theo was due the next day, and so I stayed behind.
They had to play a show without you?
A bit late, yeah. And missed that one. But, toured for 2 weeks.
Do you have an understudy?
Yeah. I just built one, actually. He's 4 now. But, yeah, we're working on the farm team. Yeah. But, we'd tour again if that's what happened.
Do you enjoy touring?
I love it. I love the part where we play music for people. And I like the part where we stop and eat awesome food somewhere because the internet exists and you can just always find the best place to eat.
Yeah.
But driving forever on a time crunch is like not
in a van
the best thing to do forever. And we've driven across Canada like more than 20 times, and like we know everywhere. I know when we're going to turn the corner in the Canadian Shield going from Thunder Bay to Sault Ste. Marie. I know we're going to turn the corner and find Baby Lake and Mama Lake and Daddy Lake and stop for a pee here and do this thing. It's like, it's kind of a weird feeling to drive across this giant desolate country and be like, I know that rock, and like I know that tree. There's that one tree you were sick behind that one time, and lots of stories come out of it. And touring's amazing, and every band should do it when they're 20, right up until they're 40.
Right up until they're 40.
Yeah. And I still, I admire bands touring. A lot of our friends are doing tours, and it makes a lot of sense to tour when you have an album. And when you have support, and when you have something to promote and make new merch and play new songs and do the thing. But to pack up and go on tour without something bubbling is just like a great way to spend money every single day on gas and hotels and stuff. And we've slept on enough floors. We don't really do that anymore. We don't sleep on people's floors.
Do you remember, and I had someone on the other day, it might have actually been Dan Mangan. Do you remember because he said that they're still happening, and I do you remember the living room concerts?
Well, he made a whole new world of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Side door access.
Yeah, we talked about that on the show.
Hugely would promote that as an awesome alternative to playing in shitty bars across the country to nobody. Because playing to even playing to a small living room full of people who are there to listen and support you, whether they know who you are or not.
It's a different audience.
Is like a different experience for your soul.
Yeah.
Rather than having your soul crushed into a grimy carpet, it's like you're lifted up on food platters and, potluck and homemade beer or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was actually Dan that introduced us to the first house show we ever played, which was in England, in Yorkshire, in York.
Yorkshire?
Yeah, Yorkshire in England.
In York.
Yeah, and there was a lovely...
beautiful town.
Couple in this little town who host bands, and they have a mailing list, and they would mail out to their mailing list, and it would sell out immediately because they only had room for, let's say, 50 people, and their mailing list was 250 people or 1,000 people, and because everyone just kind of trusts that they're going to bring somebody in, and they'll come and watch it in their living room, and they make dinner, and they host, and then you stay at their home, and then they pay you, and then people buy your merch. And when you go play in England as a band for the first time, you're not really expecting to play to anybody. So when people are there and they love what you're doing and buy your things and walk away with T-shirts and CDs, and then you make some money off that allows you to do the next thing, it's a really beautiful thing and an awesome feeling. And it makes you go, why don't we just do this? You know?
It's a neat way to to consume music and to share music.
Yeah,
It's
I like it that way.
Yeah.
I like sitting down for concerts because standing, at 40, standing up for a
yeah.
long time is not my thing.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I love the Commodore, but like I
but
can't.
I'm a Vogue guy myself.
Yeah, exactly. I think the last time I was at the Commodore was it was a 5-alarm funk show.
And you can't sit down for that.
Well, yeah, you can't, but you can sit on the outskirts.
But it's 5-alarm funk.
It's 5-alarm funk. Yeah. It's I do find it. I went to I've actually never confessed this, so this is confessions.
Don't worry, nobody's listening.
It's okay. It's okay because neither
I didn't mean that like nobody's listening. I was
neither of the people that were at the none of the people that actually show actually listened to my podcast, and that's my dad and my brothers. But we saw Iron Maiden like it was before the pandemic in Tacoma.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've ever been a fan of like 80s hair metal or glam metal.
Dude, I went and saw Iron Maiden when they were in Vancouver.
Bruce, recently?
Yeah.
I heard it was an amazing show.
It was.
Bruce Dickinson, you know why? Like, one of the things I love about those guys is they're in there. Some of them have got to be 60 by now.
At least.
Bruce Dickinson, when I saw him 5 years ago, he was there, pyrotechnics. He's got flamethrowers on the stage. He's still running up and down the stage.
Yeah.
You compare those guys to a lot of their contemporaries. And they look like my grandpa did at 60 with longer hair. In other words, they look healthy.
Yeah.
Because they were teetotalers. They're the whole career. Like,
it's because you can't keep partying and still do it.
Yeah. But anyway, there was at one point in the night where I like faked a flare up of like an injury so that I could leave because I'm there with my dad who's like 60 and I'm like, I'm going to go sit in the back. Like I'm tired of standing. Like,
Yeah.
And I went and found some place. Went and sat on something next to a merch table. I just sat there and watched the show, sipping my drink. I'm like, this is my speed right now.
It's not so bad to sit there. I recently was at a show at the stadium and my knees got tired of sitting. So I just kind of like had to stand up every once in a while. I got bad knees. It's like sitting on a plane for hours and like sitting in a van. And it's not good for them.
Yeah,
So I just kept like standing up and sitting back down. But man, I was grateful to have a chair to sit in.
I have my left knee. When I fly, I have to be on.
So you can stick it out.
My left knee has to be on the aisle so that I can extend it.
Dude, I'm the same way. Left knee.
And then I have to be able to for me, it's my back. I got to be able to stand up every 20 minutes or so. And like,
Yep. It feels so good to get
Yeah,
old.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's my own stupid fault. Like I did put 20 years worth of mileage on the body.
Did you skateboard?
I didn't skateboard. I just partied way too much. Did you skateboard?
Well, I was talking about that today with somebody where I took my son to a friend's house and they have a trampoline, and I was reminiscing about all those years in high school that we spent on the trampoline at my best friend's house.
Yeah.
And skateboarding, and how those two things together just like destroyed my body. The like constant bouncing, like compacting your spine.
It was rugby in high school that did it for me. Yeah.
Sports do it.
Yeah.
I lived in Falls Creek, and I went to school at Eric Hamber on like Oaken 33rd. So every day I would just skateboard downhill from school and just braking with. I ride Goofy, so braking with my.
I rode Goofy
foot,
too. Yeah.
Just like destroyed my knees over time. Just braking, not even skateboarding.
Yeah.
And so.
Did you ever get into longboarding?
No, because I eventually just had to give away my skateboard and stop doing it.
Yeah, that's what I did with my longboard.
You just give it away to somebody else. Break your body.
I'm not as brave as I was when I bought this thing. Yeah.
I have 2 longboards. One is a Said the Whale land yachts
Oh,
collaboration.
yeah.
Which is one of the coolest pieces of merch we've ever had.
Land Yacht's a great company.
Yeah, they are. And we have this amazing skateboard that they made for us for our last album, Dandelion. And I chose all these wildflowers. I have a song called Big Sky, Montana, in which I talk about my grandfather picking wildflowers in the mountains and writing the names of them in his field guide and stuff, because I have this book with all these flowers. Anyways, it's an older song, but Tyler let me choose all the flowers. So I chose all my favorite wildflowers. And then we also put dandelions and everything. Anyway, so I've got this skateboard that I'll keep and occasionally will stand on. But I definitely. Yeah. Well, here's a little. I'll let you know
Maybe the dog can ride it later.
Yeah. Well, I wait till my niece and nephew come from Halifax and let them ride it. Someday my son will have it. But yesterday I was at birthday party for a 5-year-old, and my buddy had a skateboard, and I jumped on it, and I landed a pop shove it and a kickflip in a row, and then I put it away, called it a day, because the next one was going to break my body.
Next one, you're going to roll your ankle on the next one.
Smash my skull and broke my legs, but I landed both those tricks, and made me feel at least 3 years younger than I was.
Yeah, you mentioned you mentioned your grandfather.
Yeah,
and you've got I forget which album it's on, but the last track on one of your albums is it's got Gambier Island in the title, which is where your family has a cabin out there. Right. I've heard you talk. I've heard you mention your parents and family members, and quite a few different interviews, both written and video format. So obviously, like your family is a very like integral part of your existence.
Oh yeah.
Do you feel like they shape who you are as an artist and how you create?
Yeah, I do. And it's funny, actually, I'll tell you the segue after. I do. And as a young person who wrote secret poems in my notebook, as young as I can remember, all the way up to now, I write little poems which are an idea that I can't manage to flesh out the whole thing. I would read my poems to my parents. And when I first started recording music in the bedroom by myself on my computer mic, I'd make these songs and I'd play them for my parents. And whenever my mom cried, I'd be like, okay, good enough. It's good enough.
I did it.
Yeah. But they were always my first filter. And if I could play it for them and I wasn't embarrassed or felt like something was stupid, then I was okay with it. And that's why I don't really have a lot of songs that I've ever written in my entire life that I don't like or that I think are bad. I don't think any of them are bad. They're like children that I've just set free. I put a lot of love and care into it. And whether it's 1 minute long or 5 minutes long with no chorus, it's the words matter. And if I can say them in front of my parents and tell them what it means, and that's how I get it out. It's like, this is what I meant, and this is what these words mean, and this is what this means, and I explain that. It goes through this filter that allows it to exist without me feeling sheepish or ashamed of it. It's kind of like Tyler too. When when we record a song of mine that I've written, I know that it's good enough for the world because Tyler would never be a part of something that he didn't think was good or was awesome. Yeah. But yeah, my parents are musical. I grew up in a household with a piano and my dad and my mom singing. And, it was always a part of our family. And my extended family, my uncles, they were a huge influence on me because two of my uncles are musicians, and it's kind of like I watched them play guitar and singing Paul Simon songs and Leonard Cohen and rock and roll and whatever. And one of my uncles told me one day, so I'm burping away from the microphone.
Yeah, I every once in a while I have to like internalize a burp, and I can like hear it. Permeating through me, and I'm like, is that going to pick up? And
it's a mic thing.
It's a mic thing.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I've got some like pretty good mic skills.
Yeah, I mean, you got nice mics too. These are good. My uncle told me one day. My uncle Bill, my dad's brother, he said, "You should write your own songs," because I would show up to our family reunion in Big Sky, Montana, which is what the song is about, and we'd play our guitars all together. He'd bring his guitar, and my cousins would bring their guitars, and we'd all just like play together. And when we did special things, it was everyone just like playing music and singing these songs. We'd have a song book, so we all like had the words to the songs. And somebody was just like, "You should write your own songs." And then for Christmas, he sent me a Tascam 4-track recorder and a box of tapes. He was just like encouraging me to do music. Awesome. And then I recorded the first song I ever wrote and recorded was about my grandpa dying, and he took that and then like added some like organ to it and some synthesizers and like added stuff to this off time, out of tune song that I wrote. And that was the first time that any of my writing or music had, felt like it was a part of a thing. And he made a CD and he sent it to me, and there was this thing he made for me. But that was, a huge influence on just feeling like, oh, I can do this. I should do this. I should write my own songs. Ben Harper's great, but like I've got my own thoughts. And then my Uncle Ernie, he would play guitar at the cabin around the campfire. And every time he played, everyone would sing along because, you know, they all knew the same songs and they were folk songs. You know, we're singing James Taylor and Joni Mitchell and Bob Dylan and Leonard Cohen. And that's the music I'm steeped in. And so just, you know, having a family that is musical and accepts
Gorilla, you know the album Gorilla?
Yeah.
That album to me is it puts me in a place in my childhood. There's a couple albums like that. Jackson Browne, Late for the Sky, Gorilla, and then his Unplugged album. There's a couple of those, like, and then Blue by Joni Mitchell.
Yeah.
Highway,
of course, Graceland.
Graceland,
Graceland's in there. Yeah.
But there's a few albums that just put me in a certain place in my childhood with my parents, and you know, either in the car or like at the just somewhere.
Dude, I'm with you.
Yeah.
That's it. We had like 6 tapes at the cabin that
Yeah.
would just go in every time, and then there was the road trip to Montana, and it was like Graceland was like the soundtrack or the Lion King soundtrack.
Totally.
But like,
Yeah.
it's funny. I was in the car with my son today. We just got I've had an old vehicle for a long time with a tape deck, and the only tape.
But you got rid of the tape deck car?
Well, we still have it, but we have another vehicle now that
Hold on,
you can
Lewis.
listen to music in. And so I've been listening to music in the car, and it's just like changed my life again. It's my favorite place to listen. to
My
music.
favorite place to listen to music is in the car.
And it's everybody's favorite place.
Yeah,
Even like
Yeah.
the best producers in the world, they'll like make an album and go listen to it.
You got to
in
listen to the car.
make sure it
You
sounds
make
good.
sure it sounds good.
Yeah. But my son, he's kind of obsessed with the Hocus Pocus soundtrack right now because he's into witchy stuff.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so it's awesome. We're listening to Bette Midler wailing away, which is great.
She's got the cover of Put a Spell on You in that,
Exactly.
in that
Oh,
film.
man.
Like, Bette Midler's amazing.
That's the one.
Yeah, that's a great film.
It is. Okay, here's a little trivia. Did you know that they made a sequel in 2022
I did. Did you know that I saw it?
in theaters?
No.
Okay.
I saw it on Disney Plus
It's good.
because I'm a junkie.
And it's the same 3 lovely witches in it. Sarah
I don't
Jessica
don't
Parker.
even remember it.
That's because it was very much like the first one. But the first one came out in 97. The second one
Yeah.
came out in 22. Like that's a huge gap for a
Well,
sequel.
we're living in the age of recycled ideas and sequels.
It
Like they're
is.
just like
It is, but I'm
Yeah.
grateful because my son is obsessed. But
Yeah.
in between listening to those 4 songs off the soundtrack, literally just like every second that we're in the car, that's all we can listen to. I had to put on Paul Simon. And I put on Graceland, Boy in the Bubble, first song, because he talks about magic. Medicine is magical, and magical is art. And I was just like, Theo, he talks about magic, and we're talking about magic, and like where magic comes from. And I told him magic comes from the earth, and like, you know, the earth creates medicine, and that's magic. That's miracles. You
Yeah.
know, turkey
Yeah.
tail mushroom and all these things that are magic. They're literally magic. And then Paul Simon had this lyric: medicine is magical, magical is art. And I was just like, isn't that beautiful? Don't you know? He's like, yeah, Dad. Can we put on Hocus Pocus? I was like, you're right. I put a spell on you. It was so good.
There's something we were chatting about. It just reminded me of a question. I
Okay,
wanted
you
to-
bring me back to whatever we were chatting about. Okay.
No, because and I do the same thing. I'm like every single one of these episodes. I might in this moment when I'm explaining this forget the question that I wanted to ask you.
Sorry, I'll give you a different answer anyway.
And I never actually know what the question is. I'm like, I want to get them to talk about this thing.
Lay it on me.
But I will after every single one of these episodes, I'll go back. I'm like, I didn't talk to them about this or this or this or this. But it's more fun this way. Graceland, we were talking about. I don't know what the tie-in is, so I'll just come out and say it. The idea of story in music. I was listening to leading up to this interview. I was going through your guys' discography, and one of your earlier hits, Camilo. I was sitting down and I think I was watching the lyrics and I looked into it a little bit. And it's like, you know, about an East Vancouver magician.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Oh yeah.
And then I started to listen to I was listening to you guys' stuff with a different ear, an ear more tuned to story. You talk about being a poet first. You talk about, you've talked a little bit about approaching music from a lyrical point of view, like starting with lyrics. Is story something that you purposely throw into your lyrics? Are you telling stories or are you telling emotions?
I
or
mean,
both?
personally, it's both. And
Yeah.
the way I write, the only thing I know about how I write is whatever the words are that I'm using. I mean, almost always, if not, you know, they have, everyone said they've got layers, but like quite literally, the words I use can have a few different ways that I interpret them. And sometimes you can only use so many words in a song. So I try to like impart importance on them for me. So first off, it'll be a story about me and something that happened to me and something that makes me feel, gives me emotions, and you know,
Gives you the oomph feeling.
Yeah, but it doesn't always have to be just about me. I can create a story about somebody else based on my feelings. And a lot of times it's just trying to get through whatever it is emotionally that I'm going through, whether it's hardship or love or, you know, the serious emotions that make you feel and make you want to write songs that just make it happen. You know, a lot of people can sit down and write a song. I can't. I write songs because that's the only way I can really get out the things. And then when I sing them for myself, it's like I'm giving myself advice or like realizing what I've already come to learn and reminding myself I've been through this and this is how I do it. But that sounds really self-centered and feels self-centered. And I want other people to access the songs and feel like it can relate to them. And so there's generally layers, and which is why it's impossible to stand on stage for 30 seconds between songs, say, this is a song about this.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just like, this is a song where if I went through every single lyric with you, I could tell you what that was about and what that means. And that's how I write. So again, if it's a hit, Tyler wrote it. So Camilo is written by Tyler. But Camilo is a human. He and his brother Santiago were introduced to us through friends. You know, someone was dating Santi, and then Santi's brother Camilo came to the party that Tyler's singing about and did magic tricks for people. And this is before he was Camilo the magician. This was Camilo, the awesome dude from Colombia who showed up with this, you know, sweet accent, and he was so friendly, and he blew everybody's mind at this house party by just doing magic tricks. And, you know, he wasn't touring and he wasn't performing. He just was learning and being this guy. And he did tricks, and he did this one trick in particular with the folded card that goes in somebody's mouth or goes in his mouth, and then later it comes out of the beer cup, and it's the one with the signature on it.
I just need to see where you made that card go.
Caroline's a real person. I just saw Caroline the other day at the, you know, and these are real people at a real party in a real situation. And now Camilo is a touring magician. He's, you know, amazing at his craft. He has sold out shows. I've seen him, you know, on stage doing it. He also used our song as his theme song. One time he did magic for Camilo, the soccer player on the Whitecaps team, who, you know, they played our song and did the thing. And so we have this connection with Camilo, but he's his own amazing person. And his brother Santi is actually like the personal assistant to Justin Bieber. And last time we were in LA, we went to Justin Bieber's compound, and Santi came out on his scooter to like, hey, talk to us. You know, obviously we couldn't go in, but he just came out and hung out with us like outside of Justin Bieber's house, and heard some, you know, cool stories about nice guys and fun stuff. But yeah, Tyler's a storyteller, and he writes songs differently than I do, but I listen to his lyrics and go, yeah, this is what I think you mean. And then there's always a time when I say, so Tyler, what is this song about? What does it mean to you? And like that kind of thing.
You're a big Gord Downey fan, right?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really big.
Really big. Yeah. I love Gord Downey. Yeah. Who is he still gives me the feels because he had cancer at the same time as my mom. But he was a big storyteller as well. And he had lots of his lyrics are peppered with regional stuff, you know,
fully,
stuff about the East Coast, and even stuff about other places. Like, you know, New Orleans is probably one of the most sung about cities ever. Your guys' lyrics, especially, I think more your earlier stuff has a lot of like different mentions of like if you're from Vancouver and our age, you're like, you know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think we've all grown up. Anyone who's been grown up in the arts or grown up in the, or grown up not in the arts, but in love with the arts, in love with music, in love with cinema, in love with something else. There are cities that we hear about all the time. People sing about New York. People sing about, they sing about New Orleans. They sing about Austin. They sing about Los Angeles, Montreal.
Yeah.
Being a part of a band that has gotten, you've toured internationally, and you have got. Do you view those songs differently now? Like knowing, like you talk about Carolyn being a real person. You're like,
Right.
I was there. Like
Yeah.
my buddy wrote this tune, and
Right.
I was there. I was in that house.
Yeah.
You talk about songs like you've written about Gambier Island. When you hear people sing about their specific regions, does it connect with you in a different place, having been an artist that's done the same thing in your own place?
I mean, I'm lucky. I've been a lot of places that I know
You can relate.
often what people are talking about when
Yeah.
especially because I work on Granville Island at a hammock shop, and I talk to tourists every day from everywhere, and I most likely go, "Oh, I've been there," and then I connect with them about that place, and then they walk out with a hammock.
Yeah.
It's not a trick. The hammocks are amazing, but it's pretty cool to have had the experience of being in a lot of places, even just for a day or just driving through, but knowing what it's like in some way. But for me, singing about Vancouver, not just the city, but the flora, like the names of the plants and the things that I sing about, they're like characters, but not just in my songs, they're characters in my life. So when something seems redundant in my songs, like, oh, I've already sung a song about this, it's because it never leaves my life. It's always there. So singing about it again isn't redundant. It's not like I've run out of ideas. It's just like it's still there. It's still the character that's there. So on, Cascadia, we had the song "Wake Up," where I sing about the lions and the 9 o'clock gun and the island and the silhouette. And
But if you're not
how
from here,
sound-
those are all like great metaphors. What are they singing about?
Totally,
You're like, no,
but
those are
when you-
tangible things
and
from the city that I
when
grew
you're
up in.
from here, so it's different when we play
Yeah.
the Vancouver show, and a lot of people say, "Wow, these people are singing about us and our thing," but it's relatable in the way that what I mean is that we need to be conscious and aware of the planet, and like I sing about in the place that I love, and it's like you find the place that you love, and you imagine someone tearing that down, and like how angry does that make you? What does that make you feel like?
Yeah.
And if you protect that place, and I protect this place, and you protect that place, and we all protect this place, then can't we just get together and like protect this whole place? Like if we all love somewhere,
could
then
try.
why are we just tearing down that and this? And so I hope it's relatable. I want it all to be relatable. But if I can't bring myself, on the verge of tears singing my own song, then why do I care? What does it matter? It's like I kind of feel a bit jaded when I listen to music and I listen to lyrics. I always listen to lyrics and the way people sing stuff. And if it's too perfect, it's like it misses something. And if the lyrics rhyme too well, it misses something. There's always so often a miss and a disconnect where I'm just like, I'm glad people are making whatever they make, but like very little of it actually connects with me and makes me want to listen to it again and again and again and again and again, which is, when you're an adolescent and you're absorbing music like a sponge, you live music, you breathe music. When I first started buying records at the flea market, on Terminal for 25 cents a piece, as they used to be, I'd buy the entire catalog of Led Zeppelin.
I used to clear out thrift stores for vinyls.
Because you could afford it. Vinyls weren't $25.
They were 25 cents. Yeah.
Yeah. And you could buy the entire Led Zeppelin catalog. And I own like every Bob Dylan album made and all the Joni Mitchell albums and all the James Taylor and like everything that I was interested in. I listened to all of it. And then there would be the songs or the albums that I would just like listen to on repeat. And now I have boxes of vinyls that I'll probably not ever listen to again because I'm really not that interested in even things like Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin, most of Bob Dylan's catalog. I've listened to it like it was, like it was going to disappear and I needed to have it all. But now I won't go back and listen to that because there's the things that I'll always come back to, and I'd rather listen to this one album 100 times than just like have that on in the background. And when I come back around and sing my own songs to myself, I don't know if this sounds douchey or not, but like I can bring myself to a place, and like I said, I can remind myself I've been through this very intense emotional state, breakups or love loss or whatever it is. If I've written a song about it, that's not the last time I'm going to be in that place, in that feeling. So if I can quell those emotions because I've been through it before, like that's why I don't hate my songs. A lot of people are just like, write the new thing that's better. And I'm always just like, write another thing that matters.
Right.
Because I don't mind having 75 songs in my pocket that matter to me. You know, if I ever start playing music on my own, I've got all these songs that I really love and really care about that I have lost touch with. And every time I play them, I don't play them like I'm in a band, because when I'm by myself, I don't have good rhythm or timing. I can't play them on time because there's no drummer. And it's like, I stop and I think about words and I do stuff. And, you know, so I forget what we were talking about, but now that we're here,
no, that's great. I love what you're saying about, I'd rather listen to this one album 100 times than listen to, go back and listen to all of it.
Yeah.
Listen to 100 albums once than I'd rather listen to, that's what you said. I think it was, I'd rather listen to one album 100 times than 100 albums one time that, you've got in your catalog. And I kind of feel that way as well. I remember so keenly being young and falling in love with music. And I feel like my music taste is like a bit of a circadian rhythm. Like I will go every 2 or 3 years, I will go and like almost chronologically relive my musical introduction. I'll go back and I'll listen. And there's a lot of stuff that I listen to constantly all the time anyway, but I'll go back and I'll like listen to all the stuff that I was listening to in the 90s. Like I'll listen to like 3 Blues Traveler albums and then go through go back and dive back into Ani DeFranco. Yeah. And
it
then
still holds up.
It still holds up.
Awesome.
But I won't go back. Like I'll listen to their highlights. Yeah. But it's their album I'll listen to album highlights, not the song highlights. I'm okay on sign
that,
off. Okay.
On that,
I'll cheers you on that.
Yeah.
Just before we sign off, I wanted to ask you one kind of nerdy question. Because I always want to ask this of people that have like really big catalogs of you've got between you and your bandmates, you got 7 albums over the last 17 years, hundreds of songs, probably tons that you've written that did make
no one's heard.
That no one's heard. Yeah. Do you have, how many songs do you have do you have any songs that you've recorded that you do not at all remember how to play?
So many. Like even this album, Reunion, the Hawaii album, we had a practice the other day. We just played in Maple Ridge the other day, which was a really fun show. But at our practice, Tyler's like, do you guys remember how to play Willow? Like the song off of Hawaii, which is like one of my favorite songs maybe we've ever done.
You have to relearn it.
I love it. And I was just like, not a clue.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I'm pretty sure you just hit that one note and I do this thing and then you do that and I do this. And I'm just like, let's listen to it. So like, listen to it into the microphone.
You're like, what key are we in, man?
And then I was like, wait a second. And I went online and I looked.
You looked at the tabs for your own song?
Willow, what are the chords? And I just like got the general chords. They're not always right in the thing. Yeah, but I got the general idea and I was like, oh yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, that feels natural. But I know for a fact we're going to have a few rehearsals leading up to that show. And during the first rehearsal, we're all going to come and we're going to have remembered how to play it because we'll come in having remembered. And then it'll be so awesome because we're all way better at what we do now than we were then.
Right.
And we've all become way better musicians, way better singers, way less worried about the little shitty things that don't matter about performing, and just have more fun doing it also.
Yeah.
And now not touring as much, playing shows farther and few between, but like I've never loved it more. I love playing because I'm just like thirsty. I'm just like, dying to play a show. And so when we do, it's just like, here's our opportunity to go have fun. And I'm not worried about what people are going to think, because we're going to go and just like have fun doing it. I don't know if you've ever watched a band that isn't having fun on stage.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good they are. You're like, this still isn't what I want. And a band can make mistakes and, fuck up songs. But if they're having fun, then you're just like, I'm having fun and it's good.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, there's so many songs that I could not play as a band if we tried. But every one of those songs I could try to pick through by myself, as long as I'm not trying to like stay on time or like have other people depend on me to do things. So why I never ever smoke weed before I play.
Right.
So I love cannabis, I consume, but I never ever before I perform.
Yeah. For
a few reasons. One, it's not make me do anything better other than have awesome ideas and enjoy stuff. Yeah. But it irritates my sinuses. It's an allergen. It makes my throat dry. It makes me lose my voice faster. All these things makes me forget stuff, and I don't do it, but it makes me really enjoy it. So I like to. I just don't before I perform. But man, playing songs that I don't remember, that would be the biggest nightmare, because they would just disappear in the ether.
Yeah. I just love so much that you've had to Google your own fucking stuff.
Oh yeah, it's easy. I'm so glad someone is out there doing that,
Yeah.
And it's also funny to see what people will think your lyrics are on the internet, and then you go to look at them, you're like, that's not what I said.
That's not what I said.
That's funny. I hope a lot of people don't think that's what that lyric is.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I want to sign off with a cheers.
Thank you for having me.
And it's been such a delight to have you, but it's also been such a delight to enjoy Said the Whale's music over the last 17 years. So
Thanks,
cheers
man.
to you.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.